In this video, I'll give you the top waiver wire players at target heading into week 15. I'm Jim Coventry of RotoWire, quarterback. Now, Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler could be pressed into duty if Derek Carr misses time. Apparently, he has a hand injury as of this recording. The team fears a broken left hand. He would likely miss time because you can't take a snap with a broken hand. So it's possible whichever quarterback starts. Now, remember, Spencer Rattler started earlier in the season, but then he got benched at one point and Haener took over. My preference would be Haener. And remember, it's possible Chris Olave comes back in week 15 from the concussion. Bub Means is close to coming back. And in that case, we could actually have some receiving weapons here. So it would be possible that a Saints quarterback could be useful down the stretch of the fantasy playoffs. Drew Lock of the New York Giants, 2-quarterback league only, done very little as a passer, but he runs the football. 57 and 59 yards in his 2 games as the Giants starter, 1 rushing touchdown, emergency 2-quarterback league starter with injuries. May always need somebody. Finally, another super emergency quarterback, Desmond Ridder of the Las Vegas Raiders. He may make starts in the fantasy playoffs. Aiden O'Connell suffered what appears to be a serious knee injury. Remember, Gardner Minshew with the shoulder is already on injured reserve. So Ridder would move into the starting role potentially for the entire fantasy playoffs. Not a good quarterback, but he can run, and he does have Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. Moving over to running backs, Sean Tucker of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could move into a timeshare if Bucky Irving, who re-injured his back, is in danger of missing time. Remember, not going to do this every week, but Tucker had 192 yards and 2 touchdowns on 17 touches against the Saints in week 6. But if Irving misses time, Tucker would be in a 1-2 duo with Rachaad White. Isaiah Davis of the New York Jets is next. He shared rushing attempts and targets pretty equally with Braylon Allen in week 14. If Breece Hall with that knee injury continues to miss time, we likely continue to see Davis in an equal role with Braylon Allen, giving him at least flex value. Sincere McCormick of the Las Vegas Raiders, in his last 2 games, 27 rushes, 142 yards. Alexander Madison, my guess is that McCormick probably beats him for the role if Madison comes back. I think McCormick should have a high touch floor each week going forward. Next, Patrick Taylor and or Israel Abanikanda could move into a timeshare if Isaac Guerendo, who has a foot injury, is getting an MRI on that injury on Monday, misses time. Now, Patrick Taylor knows the offense, could have an advantage. Israel Abanikanda's with the Jets, may not quite know the system. Abanikanda is much more talented than Taylor, so maybe he gets work right away, but both have the potential of seeing time if Guerendo is out. Next, Tank Bigsby of the Jacksonville Jaguars had 18 rushing attempts to just 4 for Travis Etienne in week 14 against the Titans. Now, in that game, Bigsby 62 scrimmage yards and a touchdown. You're not getting consistency from Tank Bigsby. Bad offensive line, but he is heavily involved in the Jaguars' rushing attack. Jerome Ford of the Cleveland Browns handled double-digit touches while averaging 55 scrimmage yards in the Browns' last 2 games. It looks like Ford right now is in a timeshare with Nick Chubb. Blake Corum, Los Angeles Rams, 2 weeks in a row, 8 carries in each game. The yards, 38 average per in those 2 games. Right now, you can't really use them other than a desperation flex. But again, Kyren Williams happens to miss time. Corum is looking better and better each week. If you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the RotoWire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, you can check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings. You can get a free 2-day trial. You don't even need a credit card. Just go to rotowire.com/Jim and you can check out all of our content. If you like it, join the team. If not, we're just glad you stopped by. All right, let's go to wide receiver. Chris Olave has been on injured reserve with a concussion. He's eligible to return in week 15. We don't know if he will. If he is activated, especially if Jake Haener ends up at quarterback for Derek Carr, he could be an immediate impact player. The little bit Haener played with Olave was a drive or 2. Olave was peppered with targets. Ray McLeod, Atlanta Falcons, targeted at least 6 times in 3 straight games. In the last 2 games, McLeod has 95 and 98 yards. You're not getting that every week, but he is on the field all the time. He's getting targets. He has a solid PPR floor. Tim Patrick, Detroit Lions, at least 43 yards in 3 straight games for the Lions. Now, the targets, it was 7 against the Packers, but he's normally 3 to 4 targets. So don't get carried away with the 7 targets, but he will get some volume in this offense. The 2 touchdown game, obviously, you're not counting on that either. Kendrick Bourne was on a bye this week, New England Patriots, but Bourne caught 3 passes in each of the last 3 games before the bye, was averaging 46 yards. Also, his snap share has increased each week, played 64% before the bye. It's possible he's the full-time outside number 2 receiver across from Kayshon Boutte. Jalen McMillan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, pretty forgettable season, but he came on in week 14. Catches 4 passes, 52 yards, a pair of touchdowns against the Raiders. Now, it's possible this performance raises his stock with the coaching staff, raises his confidence. We know Baker Mayfield's going to throw. He does need weapons. Jalen McMillan, why not? Sticking with the Buccaneers, Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard's been targeted 6 or 7 times in 3 straight games. In the last 2 games, he's picked up his progress a little bit. 42 and 63 yards. The veteran should be busy in 3 receiver sets, more comfortably gets in the offense. He's a talented player, and he stayed healthy so far. Jalen Coker, Carolina Panthers, has had a quadriceps injury, missed 3 games. He was close to playing this week. Before the injury, he was averaging 51 yards and 6 targets over the prior 3 games. They use a lot of 3 receiver sets. Adam Thielen will probably take over that slot role that Coker had. But Coker is 6'3", 208, can play on the outside, and would have an opportunity to be a floor performer. Bub Means, New Orleans Saints, ankle injury, who's close to returning in week 14. Very good chance he returns in week 15. And in Bub Means' last 3 games before the injury, he was between 36 and 45 yards, so he was establishing a floor. Rookie looks good. Again, we know who the quarterback's going to be, but Means could be a full-time player. Tutu Atwell, Los Angeles Rams. Now, Tutu Atwell in a part-time role has at least 30 yards in 3 straight games. Demarcus Robinson hurt his shoulder in a week 14 game. If that happens, Atwell, now I know Jordan Whittington get involved. We can see Tyler Johnson, but right now Tutu Atwell's playing well enough. He'd probably be the first in line to get an expanded role. Let's move to tight end. Pat Freiermuth, at least 48 yards in 3 straight games. And the end zone, found it twice in a row. Week 13, week 14. Now, here's the thing. Freiermuth has only surpassed 4 targets once since week 4. So the targets are low, but he's been running hot. The team is certainly weaponizing him a bit, and he's risky, but again, he's been productive. Juwan Johnson, New Orleans Saints, had a brutal matchup against the New York Giants. He did extremely well in the game. So basically with Juwan Johnson, Taysom Hill's out. Since Taysom Hill went down in week 13, we've seen Juwan Johnson average 6 targets and 43 yards, and he may be the best middle of the field receiving option for the team. Very talented. He could be a surprise down the stretch. Daniel Bellinger, New York Giants, 7 targets, catching 5 for 45 yards in the Giants' first game without Theo Johnson. Now, remember, Theo Johnson's on the injured reserve. We're not going to see him probably rest of the season. He would be eligible in week 18. Your fantasy league's probably over by then anyway. But Bellinger could see regular targets. Austin Hooper, I know he's a second tight end in New England, but he has 4 targets in 4 straight games. He had the bye this week, so he didn't play, but he's been involved. And if you're desperate for tight end help, he scored in the last 2 games as well. Probably not sustainable, but he is getting volume. Grant Calcaterra, Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Calcaterra's played 4 games replacing Dallas Goedert this year. In 3 of those games, he has at least 8 PPR points. He had 1 game in a brutal matchup, didn't do much in that. But look, Goddard's out through the fantasy playoffs. Calcaterra could get you a few targets each week. This was a long shot speculative. Tyler Higbee's on injured reserve with the knee. He's been practicing. It's possible he gets activated. If you're desperate for tight end help, Higbee is talented. We don't know what the recovery from the injury is, but again, if you're digging deep, there you go. And the last one, Tyler Conklin, New York Jets, 5 targets in 2 straight games. Unless he scores a touchdown, his ceiling has been super low. But again, if you're scraping the barrel, then Tyler Conklin could be a player to look